Now, the coronavirus and all the precautions continue to raise a lot of questions around the Commonwealth.
And this morning, Pennsylvania's Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman joins us to explain what's being done on the state level. Good morning to you.
It's great to be here.
So, health and safety of people here in Pennsylvania is of the utmost concern. We know that. But what does this look like on the other side of all of this? I mean, this affects a lot of business.
Sure, it's absolutely. What I would say is that the governor is committed to Pennsylvanian safety and making sure you know what he knows. And I would encourage everybody to follow their social media accounts. I actively retweet the governor. They give out updates constantly in terms of the number of cases, other closures. The governor announced a travel ban for government employees last evening, internationally and both domestically. So they're actively monitoring the situation. And I think the governor has the perfect balance between keeping Pennsylvanians informed without kind of giving over to general chaos and panic, and just making sure people do live their lives with the understanding that the bias is trending towards postponing and canceling and closures. And that kind of temporary inconvenience, I think, will lead to a much greater reduction in any kind of potential spread here in Pennsylvania.
As you travel the state, are you getting a different vibe from the eastern part of the state where there have been the cases, as opposed to being back here in the west now, where at this point nothing has been confirmed as far as case? Different feel, different parts of the state? There's
certainly a little bit more of a sense in, say, Montgomery County, where there seems to be like a smaller cluster of 8 or 9 of the cases there. And people, constituents send me pictures of empty toilet paper racks. I'm not sure why toilet paper is one of those things that
has been flying off the shelves,
yeah,
right?
So at the end of the day, though, I think Pennsylvanians understand that this is a new era for everybody. You know, the NBA just postponed their season. You have individuals like Tom Hanks coming down with it, and that kind of brings it home, given that,
I think a lot of the panic seems to be coming because of the unknown. And even being at the top level here in the state, you all still don't know either. I mean, this is something that health officials and state officials are still trying to figure out.
Well, absolutely. But there are examples that are being monitored, whether it was in China or whether in Italy. And, you know, what I can say is that Dr. Levine is in constant contact with the CDC and other national experts. And the governor is constantly making sure that Pennsylvanians know and have the latest, most up-to-date information possible to make the best decisions for themselves and their families.
Decisions have been made locally at this point. Is there any talk about Pennsylvania coming in and making a statewide declaration as to what school districts should do or what businesses should do?
You know, it's an ongoing situation. I saw Colfax was closed today because of an abundance of caution. I think that's such a great watchword or phrase, an abundance of caution. And I just would ask everybody to be more patient, because we really are in all this together. And since this is really kind of unprecedented, to understand that they're going to be, I mean, you know, yelling at the mayor, for example, on Twitter because the St. Patrick's Day parade is closed it's not helpful. I mean, that's the right call to make. And the inconvenience you may experience now is going to be very helpful in making sure this doesn't spread.
Rick and I were talking about this ripple down effect, though, because of some of these closures or postponements, hotels and restaurants, even looking at some of the colleges and some of the trips that were planned. How are you guys handling that at the state level?
Yeah, there's any number of bills that are being proposed to make sure that workers that are not necessarily receiving sick time be able to receive some kind of assistance. And all that is going to have to get through the legislature to determine what kind of aid and assistance. And quite frankly, as I shared with you off camera, it's unsure whether the House and the Senate are going to reconvene as scheduled on Monday. I don't know. Technically, we're supposed to, but as you know, things are changing rapidly. So I honestly can't say with a sense of certainty if that does or not.
Okay.
Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, kind enough to join us here at KDKA this morning. Thank you for your time and your perspective. It's good to see you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, we have got much more coming up for you online. Everything you need to know about this coronavirus spread, we continue to be dedicated to you, providing you the necessary information to make sure that you're protected, protecting your family too. And every one of our newscasts, it's there. You can head to KDKA.com. It's there as well, as we're updating these stories around the clock. And you can watch any of those reports. Maybe you've missed one. Go to CBSN Pittsburgh. That's right there on our homepage. We've got the information there for you as well.